Welcome back to the Manor. Entropians, Julian McBain here, and today I'm going to be hunting in Orthos once again. It's becoming kind of a pastime when I am in an EU, although I've been taking a bit of a hiatus lately. But I wanted to talk about, what I will be talking about over the long period of this video is MindArk's plans to be able to digitize human memory. It's think piece time. However, before we get started, as always, welcome to the Manor. Make sure you take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please consider becoming a patron and supporting my work. You can go to patreon.com/JulianMcBain. Link is in the description. If you do become a patron, you will get a copy of my ebook, The Modern Entropian. Okay, so couple of things kind of to before I get into the whole digitization issue is one of the reasons that I'm doing all of these really low-key hunts is I'm trying to see how efficient, not eco, but like cash efficient I can be on hunting. And what the difference between that and eco is the percentage of times I'm coming out in the money versus out of the money. Keeping in mind that hunting here, even if you're in the money, it's only a couple of pet. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, well, not to put too fine a point on it, life happens, and I can't necessarily hunt regularly at the level I was hunting last year. I put 800 pet a month into this game 12 months straight last year, plus extra for mayhems. Can't do that this year. It is what it is. So I'm experimenting. How can I extend gameplay? How can I make it so that I can do more? How can I try to come out with a profit overall? And so like for this, now keeping in mind I haven't played a huge amount this month. I've been trying to barrel through Borderlands 2 because I'm friggin' enjoying it. But for this year so far, I'm actually up 17 ped, which is not a lot. It's definitely not 800, but it's a step, and it's an idea of how your looter professions have to be in order for you to be in the money. And now I can't guarantee that that's 100% the case because I haven't bought ammo yet, and that's when it's going to tell. When I am at the point where I have to buy ammo, that tells me whether or not this has been profitable, because I know what I started with. And so that's really going to be the sign of whether or not this has been a worthwhile experiment. The thing is, though, is that because of previous hunts, I started out the year with 450 ped worth of ammo, or somewhere in there. It might have been 470. I need to go back to my to my New Year's live stream replay and see how much I ended that with to really get a grasp of it. But by doing it this way, I'm seeing how sustainable things are and seeing if there's any alternative methods that I can use. And it might be super successful and it might be a flop. Either way, I think it's worthwhile. So that's why I'm spending like so much time in Orthos oil field. Okay, so let's talk about MindArk. And MindArk's idea to start digitizing human memory. This is not a new idea. It's the first time anyone said from a practical standpoint we should give this a shot. But it's not a new idea at all. So Japan, of course, being the land of let's do things that are, or let's conceive of the possibilities of things like living in a video game and dying in a video game, you die in real life, or becoming digitized. In fact, the two things that come to mind, of course, are Sword Art Online, because why not? And the other is Expelled from Paradise, which is an anime I actually, for those of you who like anime, I strongly recommend it. It's a movie. It's about 2 hours long, and there's a lot of concepts in it that make you think. Especially when it comes to human digitization. And so I would highly, honestly, I'd encourage anyone to watch it, but the people who are really going to enjoy it are the anime fans. And I know there's a lot of you out there. I wear my weeb on my sleeve. So it's kind of interesting that MindArk has decided that they're going to start trying to figure out how to digitize memory. And I think it's important. That's something I do want to throw out there. I think that is utterly important. That we find a way to digitize memory. There's so much knowledge and experience that we lose every single year as people pass away. And I understand that's part of the natural process. But I think that there are mistakes made every year that had been made in the past, that if the people had had access to those memories and that experience, those mistakes would not have been repeated. I think human progress would grow by leaps and bounds with that kind of access. I also think that it's a bit playing with fire. I do. And there are two reasons for this. One is the question of, by transferring memories, are you successfully transferring consciousness? Calls into the question the nature of consciousness. Because what is consciousness? Is it not our memories interacting with the world and gaining experience? How is personality created? There is so much about the human brain we just do not understand. I think we understand. I remember hearing something like saying that we understand 10 to 12% of the human brain as being exceptionally generous. It's 3 pounds of fat and neurochemicals in neurons. 3 pounds. And it runs something as complex as the human body, interacts in the world in a complex way, and we have no idea what it is capable of. We don't even understand, we can't even grasp the nature of consciousness itself. We have created self-aware robots. Artificial intelligence. It's nascent, but it exists. Easily passes the Turing test. Can develop relationships. So do I think we can successfully transfer consciousness? Assuming that the transference of consciousness has something to do with the transference of memory? Absolutely. Do I think eventually it'll be possible to do it no matter what? Yes. Do I think we can do it now? I doubt it. Not successfully. At best, it'll be a clone of the principle, of the original. So it'll be like a copy. But I think it's coming. And I think I'll see it in my lifetime. And I'm 35. So if you're under 50, I think you'll see it in your lifetime. And I do believe that the lifespan of humans will drastically increase over the course of the next 2 decades. We've already done it to rats, which is a step. There's a lot in the way, especially for us, because the same process by which we could reverse aging is also the same process by which cancer becomes a problem. It's all telomere lengthening. And I think I went through this in my vlog last Saturday, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. But it is important that we consider the possibilities, because we can lengthen our lifespan, which means we can gather so much more experience into one brain. And then imagine we can then save that data and download it onto a hard drive. And it would take petabytes of information. You just download that brain onto a hard drive. And then having downloaded that brain, all of those memories, that consciousness perhaps, is then in a computer. So what do you do with that? Whoops. Well, it's not ethical to download a consciousness and just put it into cold storage. That's worse than prison. And we don't know what would happen to that consciousness while it's in storage. And so you'd have to upload it to something that is... The consciousness is able to interact with things. And so something like Entropia platform would be perfect. But at the same time, you've got some conundrums there, because that means as soon as you download, or as soon as you upload a consciousness to a gaming platform, ethically speaking, you can never turn those servers off. Because now there are humans living inside that machine. And if you did turn the servers off, how would that affect them? These are all questions we don't have answers to. These are all bridges we've never even conceived of having to cross, except maybe in a random Star Trek episode. Oh, I've got a bad feeling about this. Okay, shout out to Dude. She's doing her thing. And y'all can read it. I ain't saying it out loud. That's funny. Obviously, this man was bringing Dude out. So I guess the question is how do we resolve that conundrum? It's not an easy conundrum to solve. Can we put ourselves in a situation where an EMP could be classified as a weapon of mass destruction? Can we allow ourselves, or even electrical surge? Could you imagine what would happen if an electrical surge were to fry a server? It would be a massacre. I mean, obviously it would be slightly different because you're dealing with zeros and ones, but if the personality is locked inside the computer, you would have to have multiple safeguards against power failure, and power surges in particular, because even if the power fails and the server goes offline, it would almost be like cryostasis without the cold, I think. But conversely, if something fries the hard drive, that fries the memories and fries the consciousness of everyone living inside that server. I don't know... I don't know how you could overcome that. I'm not even sure we should. I mean, and let's face it, natural disasters happen all the time. Hurricanes claim lives, and tornadoes claim lives, floods. And then you have unnatural disasters like warfare, nuclear events. But just the idea that something as simple as a lightning strike could not wipe out... Because lightning strikes kill a certain number of people every year. But you have a lightning strike hit a server with 3,000 people on it? How would you reconcile that? How would you handle that? I don't even know if we're culturally prepared for an event like that. I mean, let's face it, we don't even understand the we have no clue the limits of the technology we have created. We are creating conscious AIs, or functionally conscious AIs. And now we can, if we can manage that, there is no doubt in my mind we can functionally transfer consciousness from an organic being to a computer. But it leaves open a whole bunch of questions. And a lot of them are going to be seriously uncomfortable. And I think it's important that we come up with the answers to those questions, and I think that we have to do so in a way that takes time and is well thought out. Because if we fail to do that, we're going to regret it later. I guarantee it. I don't suppose a B101's dropped off one of these guys. Oh, look at that. So I don't think I'm amped. Nope. I am now. And you know, I thought it was just this whole thing was just going to be a thought process on what MindArk might do, but I mean realistically, I never even thought about the implications of, because I've always thought, you know, at my moment of departure, at my moment of death, I would love to have my consciousness uploaded to a computer system and see what the boundaries could possibly be. But now, I mean, it would create all kinds of questions. I mean, I'm not deterring from that possibility, if that makes any sense. Like, I still like the idea, but I think it's something that there's a lot of questions we got to answer. This actually turned out to be a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. Holy crap. And then I guess the next question is how do we sustain the human drive if we put them into a game? And of all of the ones I've experienced, the two that would likely be the best places to put people are either Second Life or Entropia Universe. I've never played Second Life. I think EU would be the best of them because it is a self-sustaining world. It is as close to real life as you can possibly get in a sci-fi setting. And honestly, I think it would require some adjustment. It would require some development. MindArk has come a long way. But can you imagine spending the rest of eternity living within the Entropia system, the Calypso system? I mean, I could, because then I'd have time to really grind it out. You know, you don't have to eat, you don't have to sleep, because you're just zeros and ones. I could go out to the sweating fields and spend weeks there and just grind that shit out. Acquire enough deeds to live off my deeds and shares. Be the king of EU while living in EU. Kind of like Big Industries. Buy out Big Industries when those guys pass. Which I know is like another 100 years, but... But at the same time, it would be awfully lonely. At least I think it would be. Because how many... I mean, of course, other people would end up getting uploaded, so that's different. Eventually, it would totally change the dynamic of the platform. 110%. But the thing is that humans, in order for us to find value, we have to work. I'm serious. This is psychologically proven. We have to be productive in order for us to find value in ourselves. We have to be doing something productive, or that we conceive as productive. That's why people with jobs are much happier, believe it or not. And if you think that you're unhappy in your job, try quitting your job for a month. Try being out of work for once and see what it does to your self-esteem. It is... It is something that would fundamentally change the dynamic of Entropia universe forever. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Change is not necessarily bad. There are bad changes, but change as a whole is not necessarily bad. I think that this is something that would have to be carefully implemented. I think MindArk would really have to think about how they do it. Because if they do it wrong, the whole thing will collapse. And then what do you do with the consciousnesses that you develop, that you uploaded into the system? There's so much more to this than I ever even thought I could come up with. And we're there, folks. I mean, the computer systems we have now are actually more sophisticated and more powerful than the conceived of computer for the Starship Enterprise and Star Trek The Next Generation. I want you to think about that very carefully. The LCARS system, which is the Library Computer Access System that was conceived of for Star Trek The Next Generation, is technologically inferior to the computer I'm playing this game on. Their targeting systems are technologically inferior to the computer that I'm playing this game on. Their targeting systems. The targeting systems on a modern destroyer surpass the Starship Enterprise, or what was conceived of for it. The Enterprise didn't have close-in weapon systems that automatically fired. Could shoot missiles straight out of the sky. But modern destroyers have them, as do aircraft carriers. 30mm Gatling guns, the GAU-8 Avengers, that are also carried on the A-10 Warthog. It's technically the Thunderbolt, but everyone calls it the Warthog. Are used to shoot missiles down, and they're on auto track. You just turn them on and they just do their thing. The missile comes in range. That's all there is to it. We have come so far that even the most sophisticated science fiction movies of the 60s and 70s did not realize what this would look like. And yet we don't have a warp drive yet. Although we know the reasons we don't have a warp drive yet. But we're coming to the point where questions got to be asked. And I think it's important that they get asked. I do. I think it's desperately important they get asked, and they need to be answered. And some of them, the only way we're going to answer them is by making mistakes. And unfortunately, that means that in all likelihood we are going to... I'm not going to say people will die for it, because technically if you're uploading your memories into a computer, you're already dead, but we're going to lose... I think it's highly likely we'll lose a few of the people that upload. If that makes any sense. They'll accidentally get deleted, or the memories will go away, or they'll get corrupted. Which is another threat to worry about if you get uploaded to a computer. What happens if your files are corrupted? But it's going to be no different than people who pioneered into unfamiliar territory. And I'm not supporting colonialism or anything like that, but it's something that we're going to be running into when we go to colonize Mars. That's happening. Not today, not tomorrow, but it's going to happen. And it's going to happen within my lifetime. We're going to have settlers on Mars. And some of those settlers are going to die. because it's unforgiving. There's no room for error, and mistakes happen. Systems failures happen, and help is 6 months away. And I know that that's one of the reasons that we're being so careful about putting our first long-term, even just putting the first human on Mars, is they're taking such care with it. Because even a simple failure could result in catastrophic loss of the whole crew. Worse than Apollo 13. And it's going to take more personnel to get them there and back safely. You're not going to throw 3 people into a tin can for 6 months. That worked for a week. I don't even know that the moon landings were that long per mission. I think they were. But it will not work on a 6-month voyage. You have to have more to do. And then they're going to get there and they're going to have problems with muscular. They're going to have muscular problems due to the 0G. And Mars has a much lower gravity than Earth, but it still has gravity. Those astronauts are going to be gone for a year to a year and a half just on a basic mission. If an accident happens, you lose the whole crew. Or potentially lose the whole crew. Same thing can happen when you're colonizing cyberspace. We don't even know what... We have no idea what the effect of dying in a game and being sent to the revive terminal will do to a person. 0. I mean, when we're playing the game, we kind of understand it, but we're outside of it. Even in VR to a certain extent, although I do think that going through like Borderlands 2 in VR, which there is a Borderlands 2 VR, that's happening, will kind of give us an idea. We don't know what kind of psychological trauma that could cause, because we don't know how realistic it will feel to live inside the game. No one's ever done it. There's a lot of questions to answer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. Okay, I guess I better find myself a safe zone so I can outro. Good enough for government work. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. And I'd like to put a moment out there for sharing. Please, please, please share this video and any of my videos that you think are worth sharing. To your Twitter, to your Facebook, to wherever. Because that's going to help me get more people watching, which increases my subscriber count, which helps me move toward that partnership. So please share the video if you think I'm worth sharing. And then, with that, I will see you all next time.